Gil Martin here. The Locked On road to the NHL Trade Deadline continues. The New York Rangers making another move. They acquire Patrick Kane from the Chicago Blackhawks. In exchange, Chicago will get a conditional 2023 second-round pick, which could become a first, and a 2023 fourth-round pick. With me to talk about this deal, John Chik of Locked On Rangers. And John, there have been rumors for a long time. How does it feel to have Patrick Kane in a Broadway blue uniform?
Yeah, it's very exciting, man. It's going to be surreal to see him play on any team other than the Chicago Blackhawks. I mean, he's become synonymous with that team, with that city. And Gil, you and me were talking just a second ago before we hit record here. I mean, yeah, it's one of those things you could definitely see it coming. Obviously, it's been in the works, and there's been all these rumors that Kane was only going to waive his no move clause to go to the New York Rangers, and that obviously gave them a ton of leverage in any and all trade talks. But to see it actually happen, be on Twitter and refreshing and what's going to happen, like are we definitely getting him, is this for sure? And then all these very reputable NHL reporters begin to break the news, and it's like, oh my god, this is really happening. Patrick Kane is coming to the Rangers. We're getting him for pennies on the dollar, and he very well is going to be in the lineup tomorrow night when the Rangers play the Flyers. And I'm very much looking forward to it. Obviously, the Rangers got close last year, and they're thinking that this could be the move that kind of pushes them over the edge here and makes them actually complete the journey. And it's going to be very, very difficult. The Metro is so stacked. The Eastern Conference playoffs in general are going to be just must-see TV this year. There's no easy way to win the Stanley Cup, but I think with this move, the Rangers have certainly improved their chances.
I mean, we know about the skill, even at the age of 34, that Patrick Kane brings to the table. Talk to me about some of the intangibles. Here's a guy who's a leader, who's won 3 Stanley Cups already. How does he help the Rangers locker room when we get to these playoffs?
Yeah, I think it's big. I've been talking about this in the past. The Rangers went through that rebuild. Obviously, they were a tremendously young team, but when they were going through the rebuild, I always wanted them to just add maybe like 1 or 2 veterans, somebody who's won the Stanley Cup or at the very least has been part of some deep playoff runs and knows what it takes to win. The Rangers, they added Vladimir Tarasenko, former Stanley Cup champion. Now you get Patrick Kane, who's won 3, and obviously, he's been a part of so many deep playoff runs for that Chicago Blackhawks team, so many, legendary series that he's been a part of. And I think it helps a lot. The Rangers are still a young team despite, the deep run last season. And I think that was beneficial for some of the young players to make it as far as the team did last year. And hopefully they're better prepared for the playoffs this year as a result of that. But man, there's no substitute for somebody like Patrick Kane, who's won 3 Stanley Cups. I mean, the Rangers have players on their team right now that are 20, 21, 22 years old. These guys were probably Patrick Kane in their backyard, playing hockey and just goofing around. And now they get to be teammates with him. And, again, you bring in somebody that's a 3-time Stanley Cup champion. It's instant credibility. I'm hoping that him and Panarin will just pick up where they left off and they can make some magic happen on the same line. But yeah, just very, very excited to see what he can do.
Is that where you see him fitting in with Panarin? Who do you think the other line mate might be?
Yeah, I think you're probably looking at a situation where you have a top line from left to right of Kreider, Mika Zibanejad, and Vladimir Tarasenko. They've had Tarasenko. They moved him around just a little bit since they've acquired him, but the last handful of games, that's where he's been. And kind of just connecting the dots here, if the Rangers are going to bring in Patrick Kane, which they now have, it just makes the most sense to put Tarasenko where he's going to be after they bring in Patrick Kane. So I get the feeling that that line will remain intact. They've had a second line recently of left to right Panarin, Trocheck, and Barclay Goodrow. I imagine Barclay Goodrow probably drops down to the 4th line now. Patrick Kane slots in there with Trocheck and with Panarin. And the 3rd line would be, the kid line, Lafreniere, Hedel, and Kakko, who, came into their own during last year's playoffs and been a little bit hot and cold this season. But if that's your 3rd line, I mean, I think you got a heck of a team. So very much looking forward to that as well.
And he's got to be able to help on the power play, I would think.
Yeah, it's crazy. I just did an episode. It's actually premiering on YouTube right now, the Kane reaction episode or whatever you want to call it. But I tried to figure out, okay, who's going to be on what power play unit and how do you distribute the ice time? I would imagine, see if I can remember, how I had this set up. Top unit of Kane, Kreider, Mika, Panarin, and Fox. And that's just absolutely ridiculous. You can put guys like Tarasenko and Trocheck and Hedel. K. Andre Miller is suspended right now, so probably Jacob Trouba would be the defenseman on that unit. and then either Kakko or Lafreniere, one of those two is not going to be on the power play in my estimation. So just kind of an embarrassment of riches as far as the power play units are concerned right now.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very interesting playoff run. Well, be sure to check out Locked On New York Rangers for more on the Blue Shirts' latest Star Edition. And keep it dialed to Locked On NHL all along the road to the NHL Trade Deadline. This is the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.